What's up, everybody? This is Whiskey in the Six, number 44. I'm Rob. I'll be reviewing the old Pulteney 12-year-old. See if the camera can pick that up. I always miss it and it kind of doesn't really get the full bottle. This is nice and small. So this is from the Whiskey Exchange website, based in London, England, that is, for those of you that are from London, Ontario. My brother-in-law brought this back for me. It's a 50 mil or 50 cl, 50 milliliter or 50 cl. These things are cool because they're made of glass, not plastic like some of the ones that you'll find with Canadian whiskeys. And they have a whole bunch of different kinds. They had Macallan 10-year-old, they had, Glendronach 18-year-old, 15-year-old, 12-year-old. So they had a whole bunch. I didn't want my brother-in-law's luggage stacked with even more of my stuff, so because he's back for good now, so he's not going back to London, England, hopefully for a long time. So in order to not make his luggage too packed, I decided to be a little bit less greedy and ask for a little less. I had an opportunity to taste this about 4 or 5 nights ago. 3, I don't know, maybe 3, 4, I don't know, something like that. Really good stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the nose and the tasting, but first I just want to tell you it is bottled at 40%, so kind of disappointing. You would expect at least 43% for an entry level 12-year-old. It's a Highland Scotch, but it's so far north, I guess, or in the Highland region that's on the coastal sides of the Highland region, that it's got an incredible ocean influence, okay? Because I guess the distillery is very, very close to the ocean. So that really comes through in their whiskey. It definitely comes through in the 17-year-old, and I'll talk a lot about that when I do the actual review. I'm really happy I got this bottle because it's not available in Ontario. The 21-year-old version is available in Ontario, but the 17-year-old version isn't. And although it's aged majority in bourbon, ex-bourbon barrels, it's got a few casks from Pedro Jimenez sherry and a few Oloroso sherry casks inside there, mixed all together to make it a 17-year-old single malt. I'll get to that eventually, but next up, so that I can get this back to my brother, it'll be the Woodford Reserve. Anyway, Old Pulteney 12-year-old. So I believe this is natural color, and I believe it's non-chill filtered. Based on when I did add a drop of water, you got a little bit of that Scotch mist, but I could be wrong. The small bottle doesn't say, and I couldn't find it anywhere on the website, nor could I find it on some of the sources that I read. But if you know, please leave that in the comment section below. I believe, like I said, it's natural colored, and the other expressions are non-chill filtered. So it would be the only 40% non-chill filtered whiskey that I've seen, but it's still possible. Okay. On the nose. Okay, so it's reminiscent on the nose of the Balvenie Portwood that I have, but less vegetal seaweed and more salted caramel. Okay, so you do get that ocean influence, but it's a sweet saltiness. It's not a vegetal type saltiness. It's not. It doesn't taste like or smell like seaweed. Okay. But you do, like I said, that ocean mist. For years of being in the distillery, exposed to ocean mist, being so close to the shore, that does soak into the wood and get into the actual whiskey, and you do pick that up here, and it's really, really pleasant. I will say that Old Pulteney, from my experience with the 12-year-old and so far with the 17-year-old, it's probably not a rookie type Scotch. It's not one of the Scotches that I would recommend for someone that hasn't tried Scotch just yet. I would say you need a little time with Scotch before you venture into something like this, because it's got some complexity that can turn some people off. I think once you establish yourself, you know what a bourbon Scotch tastes like, you know what a sherry Scotch tastes like, you might know what a portwood aged type Scotch tastes like, then that's a good opportunity after a while to venture to the Old Pulteney, because it has, like I said, that ocean influence, and it does have a salty brininess to it, but it's pleasant, and it makes it a better Scotch in my opinion. Okay, on the taste, on the palate. So the brininess comes through on the palate as well. It's smooth, but it's also 40%, so you would expect that. Get that subtle caramel influence. It's exclusively aged in ex-bourbon barrels, and that does come through in the Scotch. It's got a strong vanilla influence. It's got that creaminess of corn whiskey. Okay, this is a barley whiskey, but when barley whiskeys or Scotch is aged in ex-bourbon barrels, because of the corn influence of the bourbon, even the bourbon barrels are actually dried first. Okay, so that is something that I read. They're dried before the Scotch is added to the barrels, but it's the remnants of that bourbon are still present in the barrels. That's why they use the barrels to begin with. A, for the smokiness of the bourbon barrel, and B, for that flavor of corn whiskey, of bourbon whiskey, okay? And you do pick up a little bit of that in this Scotch. You get that vanilla, okay, you get the caramel, get a touch of smoke. The smokiness is subdued because it's had bourbon in it already, okay? And we don't know how many times these barrels in particular have been used to produce Scotch, okay? It's a rule that bourbon has to be first fill charred barrels, but once they get shipped to Scotland to be used for Scotch, there's no rule on how many times they can fill that barrel up with Scotch. So I believe these are refill bourbon barrels, okay, which means Scotch has been in the barrels already once, they bottled it, they added more. They air dry their barrels, they don't char them further, okay, so that's another thing that I read recently. Okay, again on the palate. Sweet, not super sweet, very smooth, very nice finish, still going. For 40%, that finish is actually quite long. Still going actually. Little smokiness. I don't really pick up any peatiness, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the barley wasn't dried with peat. It's just I'm not picking it up. So it's not a lot of peat, that's for sure. Okay, so the main taste that you're gonna pick up, that I pick up anyway, maybe you're not picking that up, but I am, is like a caramel saltiness and that vanilla. Okay, it's not overly fruity, but there is remnants of apple in there. One more taste and then I'll give it a mark. salted caramel. Okay, that's the number one taste that I pick up. And then on the finish, the vanilla sneaks in and becomes fairly present. Okay, I'm gonna give this a solid B+. This is really good stuff. In Ontario, it's $90 Canadian. On the Master of Malt website, I think I saw it for £39. And I think it was somewhere similar in price on the Whiskey Exchange website. These particular little bottles can go anywhere from £3 to upwards of £50, depending on what you're getting. I think this one was £5. I'm not 100% sure, but really good stuff. I definitely would buy this if I had an opportunity to. It's not like readily available in Ontario. A few of the LCBO stores have it, but it's pretty sparse to say the least. But for $90, I would pick up a full 750 milliliter bottle. It's actually very good stuff. So B+. If you like this video, subscribe below, share with a friend. You can add me on Instagram and Twitter. On Instagram, I'm at whiskey_in_the6. On Twitter, I'm at whiskey_in_the_6. And both Instagram and Twitter, that's 6 the number, not the word. Okay? Cheers, guys.